This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, Winnipeg and Manitoba? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a Wednesday afternoon. And what is that? What did Tom Petty say? The waiting is the hardest part. It feels like we should have a game tonight, but we got to wait one more day. Game 3 tomorrow in St. Louis between the Jets and the Blues. Jets practice today in Winnipeg. Just finished up and are probably just about to get on the bird to head down to Missouri for Game 3 of their series. We do have updates from Jets practice today, a bit of a tweak on the power play to discuss. And I guess the big news right off the bat, we were waiting to see. Scott Arniel had his sly grin yesterday. Well, wait to see what Gabriel Vilardi's wearing in practice today. He's wearing a non-contact jersey today, so I think we can assume that he is not going to be a go for game number 3, which, to be honest, I think considering the circumstances is probably the smart move. But he will be traveling with the team to St. Louis. Nikolai Ehlers will not be on the trip, so I guess there is a potential we could see Vilardi on Sunday afternoon in game number 4 of the series. But no Nikolai Ehlers. But still, the fact that Gabriel Vilardi's out, practicing, traveling with the team, getting closer, definitely good news for the Winnipeg Jets. We got to get into another wild night of Stanley Cup playoff action right off the hop. We will do that. We'll hear from Coach Scott Arniel and Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele as well, who spoke earlier today before the team heads out to St. Louis. We've got a great lineup, though. Lots of talk about the Jets-Blues series through 2 games and a look ahead to Game 3. Brandon Rewucki's going to jump on, and we will start it off with John Shannon coming up at the bottom of the hour. Really looking forward to that. And with the Jets not playing tonight, we're going to check in with our pal Tom Gazzola out in Edmonton and tee up tonight's Oilers-Kings game, as well as get Tommy's thoughts on the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, welcome everybody in chat, especially all the new people that are just finding Winnipeg Sports Talk right now. It's great to have you with us. We are here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Join us when you can. Obviously, the content's always there for you after the fact as well. And if you prefer listening on the audio podcast, just search Winnipeg Sports Talk wherever you get your favorite pods. It'll be locked and loaded in your podcast feed every afternoon just around the time you drive home from work. Do want to thank the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers, KFC, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, F Apparel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Let's Do It Travel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend. We'll get to fans first, fan feedback a little bit later on. And of course, we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to the gang in chat. What's going on, everybody? And what is up to you, Michael Remis? How are you?
Hey, I'm feeling good. A lot going on here. Very, very busy time of year, as you said. A lot of people tuning in. You've got a ton of content following the Game 2 win. You know, Connor, Jacob, and Liz doing a bonus show for Sunday Live yesterday, and we're here today counting down until Game 3 and enjoying the rest of the other series as well. Not everyone is fortunate to go up to a 2-0 lead like the Jets. Vegas tied 1-1. And we got Colorado-Dallas tied, and a couple games. And a couple series have only played one game here, Huss. Interesting scheduling.
Yeah, well, and it's weird. We got off to the hot start with 2 of the early games, but if these series all go the distance, the Jets-Blues series will finish the latest or on the final day of the first round.
Oh.
So the job for the Jets is to give themselves a nice long wait before round 2 and take care of business if they can down in St. Louis. Hey, you just mentioned Connor and Liz going on last night, 7 p.m. If you missed that, that's up on the YouTube channel as well. We've got a lot of additional programming right now with post-game reaction from the rink with Remis and Connor. We've got practice reports. Hit that note, just turn your notifications on so you know when new content is coming out, because as the playoffs continue, we're going to keep on ramping it up. The demand for the content is high right now, as the numbers are indicating. So just want to make sure you all get it. So subscribe and turn those notifications on. Listen, before we get to the Jets and hear from Coach Scott Arniel, Remo, pretty interesting night last night in the National Hockey League. I mean, listen, the bar was raised so high on Monday night, with 4 games, all 1-goal games, 2 going to overtime, the crazy comeback in LA by Edmonton before the Kings won it late. Didn't think we were going to get that same sort of juice in last night's games, but we did have a couple really interesting ones. First off, the Battle of Ontario goes to overtime. Ottawa comes back from a 2-0 deficit early in the game. And Travis Green actually leaning on the deserve to win a meter. Ottawa's actually up 2-0 right now on the deserve to win a meter. So as they go back home, they're obviously playing well. Listen, they're getting absolutely killed on the power play. The Leafs are scoring, and they're scoring like 9-10 seconds in, kind of reminiscent of the Jets' PP early on in the season. But, man, what a missed opportunity for the Sens. And I don't know about you. Max Domi's OT winner, for Dylan, it almost seems like they're playing a completely different style of hockey out there in the East, or at least in that series. Like, if you saw Max Domi score the OT winner, he gets it into the zone. Dylan Cousins does a little feeble poke check attempt, and Domi goes by him. And then Drake Batherson does a complete flyby, allowing Domi to get the shot off and score the OT winner. And I was just comparing that to what is happening right now between Winnipeg and St. Louis, where if you've got the puck on your stick for more than a second, you're probably getting hit. There, you have to earn every inch of ice, and both teams have been doing that. Like, for a guy like that to basically be free past 2 players to get it was, it's got to be really sour for the Sens right now, battling back to win that game. There you can see, nice work on the what do they call this? The
goal visualizer here. So, yeah, who's this? Benoit's got the puck going in, drops to Domi. There's 24.
There's the poke check,
19.
There's the flyby, and there's the winning goal. It made me appreciate what the Jets have going right now, just watching that, because there's not a single player that's in the Winnipeg lineup right now, and dare I say the St. Louis lineup, that would allow a player that much room and comfort in the first period of a game, never mind overtime last night. So, listen, do I think the Leafs are a little fortunate to be up 2-0? Yeah, but I think Ottawa has only themselves to blame. They can't kill a penalty, and they just weren't at the level you need to be in playoff overtime last night, and that's why they're down 2-0.
You know, it's funny. A series like that reminds me, I keep thinking of the Jets series in 2014 versus Anaheim, where the Jets were a scrappy team, but happy to be in the playoffs. It was their first time, and they went up against an Anaheim team. A lot of the players were still part of the Cup team in 2007. You had guys with a ton of experience. And as good as the Jets were in that series, Anaheim always seemed to find a way to just be a little bit better. And when it was crunch time, they stepped up and were able to put away the Jets in a very tight 4 games. And I have wonder, Toronto, talk a lot about the Jets' playoff failure and how it's shaped them. I think Toronto's gone through a similar thing. They've played in the playoffs. It's not new to them anymore. They're used to the pressure. Some of their guys just played in the 4 Nations, notably Mitch Marner, William Nylander as well. And it's been a tight series at 5-on-5, but Toronto, and when it's been crunch time, they're able to just play, just about a bit above Ottawa and take the lead. So credit to Toronto, up 2-0. They do say a series hasn't really begun until the home team loses. So, like with the Blues, Ottawa has gone back at home. I'm sure there's going to be Sens fans very excited to see them back in the playoffs, and we'll see how it goes for Ottawa back home. They've been right there, but hey, the deserve to win meter, it doesn't really matter in a short series.
Yeah, well, exactly. It doesn't, which was interesting that it was sort of referred to. But hey, Travis Green's trying to stay positive. I mean, you're down 2-0, very disappointing. They weren't really in game one. That game was there for the taking last night. And, listen, Stolarz is playing really well. Quite the rivalry with Ridley Gregg developing. Who would have thought that Ridley Gregg, Pat just mentioned this to me on the lock shop. Like, if we were doing Coolbet lines on who the villain from Ottawa was going to be in Toronto, it would have been like minus 15,000 for Brady Tkachuk. But in fact, it's Ridley Gregg. And listen, I know there's a lot of talk about reffing. Listen, it seems to be that it's sort of different from series to series. But for Ottawa to be getting killed on the PK the way they have been, and then Gregg getting whacked 4 times by Stolarz, and then a shoulder right into him that knocked him down, for that to be coincidental penalties last night, that was pretty egregious, Reem. I get Ottawa fans being pretty salty over that one, and not just Ottawa fans, but certainly media members, former players like Mark Mathot, just losing it on that play. But as I said, they got back. They got it to overtime. They were right there, and they got to own that one, because Max Domi should have never had the opportunity to get that shot. But he did, and it went through. And, you mentioned the Jets back in like 2015. I couldn't help but think about the maturation of Winnipeg and the key players on this team. It's easy for me to sit here, be critical. Oh, Paterson and Dylan Cousins, you got to do that. I mean, listen, that's what younger teams often do. I mean, you have some stage fright, you have some mistakes, and you learn from them. And seeing what Winnipeg has done through 2 games, and in particular, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, I mean, guys that have been there before, the way they've been able to raise their level of play, maybe even more than that 10% they were looking for at the end of last year, I think bodes well for where this team is going and what they're capable of. But I think also speaks to the hard lessons, the scar tissue that you learn from falling short earlier on. And, you realize that these guys right now are having career years. They're playing in their prime right now. They're raising their level of play because they know, and they've learned the hard way, what it takes to actually succeed in the playoffs and what you need to do to beat great teams like a Colorado or even a St. Louis playing the way they are.
Yeah, we've talked all year how last year's loss to Colorado and the back-to-back 5-game exits in round 1 has shaped this team and driven them to be better, and you're seeing that. And Mark Scheifele, his playoffs so far with 5 points in 2 games has been pretty incredible in it. But if you look at Mark Scheifele's career in the playoffs, 43 points in 44 games, and most notably the 20 points, including 14 goals in 17 games in 17-18. And you're seeing a player who's elevated his game. Every time he gets the puck, he's looking to make something happen. You're noticing him, do little plays on the boards to, protect the puck, using his body and taking it to the net. It's been awesome to watch. And Kyle Connor as well, playing his game. And we know we've talked for a long time about Adam Lowry, how he elevates in the playoffs when the physicality amps up. But those are a couple guys. Even, Dylan Samberg, someone mentioned, remember it was him who had the giveaway in the playoff series against Vegas, Game 3. I mean, look at the game he had last game, leading the team in time on ice. I mean, Mason Appleton's been through series. Cole Perfetti had a rough go in the second half last season, but he's elevated his game. And we can go on the Jets, who are having career years. But there's no doubt that going through playoffs, last 2 years with the early X's has certainly shaped them and driven them.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to AJ in chat and said, "Hey, Hassan Remo, I won the HSC autographed Jets jersey contest. Your friend dropped it off already. Super pumped." Well, thank you, AJ, and thanks to everyone that donated during our run for the Health Sciences Center Foundation. I, especially me personally, I want to thank everyone that supported that. It was a great success, and we'll be there probably doing something similar next year with our friends there. Carolina won. I don't know whether we really need to take much time talking about that series. New Jersey was close, but there was Winnipeg's Seth Jarvis scoring the empty netter. But Remo, the Battle of Florida got going. It was all Panthers. Andrei Vasilevsky having an uncharacteristically kind of tough night last night. Matthew Tkachuk getting 2. But to me, the biggest win last night was by a team we hate, the Minnesota Wild, who went in and put one on the Vegas Golden Knights. You know, I was watching the first period, Reem, and Aiden Hill made 2 absolutely show-stopping saves to keep the game at 0-0. And I was literally in the process of texting Carey and saying, wow, Hill sure came to play. And then the first one went in. And then another one went in. And the next thing you know, it was 4-0. And the Vegas Golden Knights were trying to fill a comeback. I don't normally say nice things about the Minnesota Wild for obvious reasons, but I have to give them some credit and respect for, first of all, making the playoffs. I mean, they were down, $14 million or whatever that number was on the salary cap. You lose Kaprizov for basically half the season. Then Joel Eriksson Ek goes down. I mean, it's kind of amazing that this team even made the playoffs. But now that those guys are back, like that show last night in Sin City was the reason why I was, even though the Jets have owned Minnesota for the last couple of years, was a little queasy about seeing them in the playoffs right out of the gate in the first round because of what they are capable of. And listen, that top line, now that they've got Boldy and Kaprizov with Eriksson Ek in the middle, can play with any line, head-to-head in the National Hockey League right now. They were the best players on the ice last night. They made the difference. And, dude, I'm sure you saw it. That saucer pass from Kaprizov to Boldy was as world-class a play as you will see. Great finish by Boldy. And listen, do they have a lot of firepower up and down the lineup? No. But it's like when Knobloch goes and puts Draisaitl with McDavid. They've gone to that nuclear option, and those guys are blowing up right now. And listen, there was a lot of BS after the whistle. I saw Kaprizov get punched by Haig after that. You know, he went down for a bit. And usually I hate it when these guys are just taking cheap shots at star players. It was a little humorous to see the Wild getting a bit of a taste of their own medicine in a game that they're winning. But I'm sure they'll take the beats if it means getting wins. And how about that? 1-1 heading back to the Twin Cities. I and a lot of people, I don't think, saw that coming.
Yeah, well, first off, you just glossed over the Florida-Tampa series. Do want to give a shout-out to Nate Schmidt, former Jet, with his 2-goal performance. So nice to see that going back.
A big smile on my face when I saw Schmitty score those. I mean, one of the most fun guys we've ever had to talk to on this program. And, a guy that, was making a lot of money, and we understood why he moved on. And but he can still play. I mean, Stanley Cup champion, playing with the Panthers again. That was I know everyone talking about Tkachuk's 2 goals, but the real stud last night was our old pal 88.
Yeah, and dude, I thought Vegas, was going to win this series. Still do, but Minnesota, they're not going to go away easy. Getting Kaprizov back, he was in line for a Hart Trophy nomination before he got hurt, and that's been the problem with him the last couple of years, staying healthy ever since Big Stan laid the bonsai drop on him. Huss hasn't recovered 100%. And with him, as you said, their top line can go up with any top line. I fully agree. So, and interestingly enough, how about putting in Zeev Buium for his first career NHL game in Game 1? Their defense seems pretty set for the future with guys like him, Juracek, and Brock Faber. So that could be a really interesting series if you can stay up late enough to watch it. Huss, starting at 10 p.m. yesterday. I was watching. I did take note of the after the whistle stuff. And, watching the penalties called in the Jets series, and then seeing like Stolarz, what's going on there, seeing what's happening in Montreal, Washington, stuff from that, and this series, it just seems like each series has its own standard of officiating. Because I don't know, if some of the stuff happened after the whistle in the Blues-Jets series that happened in Vegas, Minnesota last night, you'd have like 5 guys in the box. You'd have suspensions for stuff. So we'll see what the standard is on Thursday. But I think a lot of people are noticing, but I don't think that's anything new.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and I was really impressed with, frankly, both teams on Monday night here in Winnipeg. I mean, it was... a hellacious game. There were so many hits. It was so physical. But there wasn't a lot of BS after the whistles.
No.
And maybe it's because of the calls that happened. I mean, the Luke Shen one with the helmet was sort of ridiculous, but I guess that's an automatic penalty. But other than that, these teams are smart. I mean, they know they cannot afford to give their opposition any freebies on the power play. And they're playing very hard right through the whistle. And then getting back to the bench, focusing on what they can do going forward, and there hasn't been a lot of that. We'll see whether that changes coming up in St. Louis. All right, lots coming up. John Shannon on the Jets series. Let me shout out our friends at Rolly's Transfer, family owned and operated for over 60 years, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Right here in the Peg, now into their 7th decade. Get the white glove treatment from Rolly's on your next move. Head on over to Rollys.com, click on that request an estimate feature, and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And they'll let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And our friends at Rolly's will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rolly's is famous for. For your next move, make it Rolly's, the most trusted name in moving in Winnipeg and Manitoba. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollys.com. There is lots of spring cleaning happening these days. If you need a spring cleaning for your grill, get those teeth looking great as you head into the new season. And head on over to see Dr. Terry and his great staff at St. Vital Dental Center. 167 St. Anne's, beautiful new facility with free parking, conveniently located right behind the building. Listen, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans for years, with patients from 6 months all the way up to 99, with a full-service dental services from cleanings, checkups, fillings, root canals, all the way to things like dental implants. Check them out online, stvitaldental.ca, for all of their services and to find out more. And of course, you can book an appointment today and pop in, say hi to Dr. Terry and the gang there. Tell them the boys at WST sent you. Big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club, Canada's iconic Canadian whiskey. Talking a lot about supporting Canadian. Maybe the easiest decision you can is when you pop into your local Manitoba liquor marts is to catch a bottle or two of Canadian Club. Since 1848, the standard in Canadian whiskey. Canadian Club 100% rye, Canadian Club Classic, all available at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And it won't be long before we're sipping on those delicious CC and ginger ales, pre-mixed cocktails in cans at vendors, and of course at Bomber Games coming up this year, as Canadian Club's the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And of course, our friends at Manitoba Battery are fired up for the Winnipeg Jet playoffs, and they're also fired up for spring and summer. And if you are getting the boat ready, the ATV ready, or whatever you're going to be having fun with this summer, whether it be on the water or on the trails, get ready to go ASAP, and that means getting your batteries at Manitoba Battery. Shopping local, get the best prices in town, and the best service as well. You can pop by and see them on Logan Avenue or their new location on Dovercourt Drive. Simply give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com. And of course, they'll deliver citywide inside the perimeter for free with any purchase over $60. For all your battery needs, your local option is Manitoba Battery. All right, we're going to have John Shannon jump in with us in just a couple of minutes. But let's hear a little bit of Scott Arniel from today. He met the media before the team jumped onto the bird, heading out. Remo, first things first, let's do number 6. Let's get this injury update from the coach. There was no Dylan DeMello. People were wondering where he was and what the story with Gabe and Nikolai Ehlers was as the team heads to St. Louis.
Scott, what's Dylan DeMello's reason?
What do you call it? What's my word?
Maintenance?
Maintenance, there's the word.
Okay. And also, how close is Gabriel Velarde to joining
the color of his jersey?
To change
see his color of his jersey?
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, but how close is he to changing
not
that
until
color?
that changes. We'll talk about it when it changes.
Going on the trip.
He'll be on the trip. Yep. Nick won't be on the trip.
All right, so there is the update, and just here's one other one before we bring in John. Scott Arniel and the plan for the extras that are with the team now.
They just did their year ends. Met with Zinger and Mo. We've got what have I got? 6, 7. I think there's 7 guys there, so they will skate out there. Obviously, we're away. Nobody's coming on the road trip. We have our extra bodies if we need them. We can fly somebody in, especially with the extra day in between. But they will be a part of. We'll mix them into some of the practices. We can use them as a scout team at times, whether they use them as PK or penalty kill, or maybe set up to make it look like the opposition what they're doing. But we'll have them. They're going to be a part of it, because if we're planning on making a long run here, depth will be. It has been already important, and it'll always continue to be important.
Coach, and he is speaking of the new contingent of Black Aces now that the Moose are done. For the ride with the taxi squad, Elias Salmonson, Dylan Coughlin, Isaac Phillips on the blue line, and up front, Parker Ford, Mason Shaw, AJF, Axel Jonsson-Fjallby, and Brad Lambert, who is not yet skating right now. All right, John Shannon is coming up right now, and this segment is a presentation of KFC Canada, Winnipeg fan favorite. So great to have them on as a playoff partner on Winnipeg Sports Talk. They're also an official partner of the Winnipeg Jets and is committed to providing Jet fans a delicious game day experience with exclusive finger-licking good promotions. They're proud to bring to Canada Life Centre a big addition in the 300s, and downstairs as well was the inclusion now of KFC chicken fingers and fries up on the upper level. Now, on Jet game days, KFC Canada is giving away their Big Crunch chicken sandwich for just $4.95 at participating Winnipeg KFC locations to help Jet fans enjoy the game with a big hit. There were certainly some big hits in Monday's game, some by Logan Stanley. And then, of course, there were the Colonels in the crowd. Great to have KFC Canada on board with us. And hopefully we'll have plenty of opportunities to get those $4.95 big crunches, because the Jets will be playing for the next couple of months. Let's welcome in John Shannon for more on the Stanley Cup playoffs. John, thanks so much for doing this. How are you today?
Living the dream, Andrew. How are you?
Hey, you know what? I'm great. I said it was like Tom Petty, sort of the waiting is the hardest part. We're used to kind of game, day off, game, but this series a little more split out for a number of reasons. But I got to tell you, I think I'll speak for most fans here in Winnipeg feeling pretty good about what we've seen so far. I mean, St. Louis has brought their best, 2 great games, and the Jets now up 2-0 heading to St. Louis. What are your takeaways been from the first couple games here in the Peg?
Well, first of all, to answer your question about the gaps and why the league has expanded the first round of the playoffs from a 14-day window, which obviously would be a game every second day, to 18 days. So they've elongated it for a couple of reasons. First of all, their TV partners in the United States are ESPN and TNT, the exact same people that have basketball. And basketball's always had an 18-day window for the first round, and they started on the same day. So that's one of the key reasons. And the other one is that there's a real appetite for every game to be seen nationally. So there's not as much overlap of games. So that's why you end up with these extra days. And I can tell you right now, you can see Arniel smiling there in the press conference, even though disappointed that Velarde and Ehlers aren't ready to play. But those extra days help those guys. This is not a bad thing at this time of year to have an extra day here or there for some of the banged up players.
No, you're exactly right. And listen, as much as fans and media are antsy to get other games, man, we've had some great action over these last few days. And if you're a hockey fan, there's plenty on the table. John, I just mentioned that, and you're, the one person I love to bounce things off like this because of your, incredible experience in the business on both sides of, the media world. Tell us what is going on behind the scenes when the first round is about to be set, and what goes into who's playing when, and, in particular with the Canadian teams, how they determine the schedules. Building availability obviously is a big part of it, but what goes on behind the scenes as to how they're determining when the Jets are playing, when the Oilers are playing, how they handle all the Canadian teams right now that are participating in round one?
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve Hatzapetros is the schedule maker at the NHL. He lives in Montreal, commutes between New York and Montreal on a regular basis. And he's got to balance the needs of all the networks, ESPN, TNT, Rogers, TVA, now that Montreal's involved, so the French network's involved. He's also got to balance for the clubs, and that becomes a real challenge. For example, it was really late last week, Andrew, when we found out about the schedule. It was as late as I remember. But it was all contingent on whether there were 4 Canadian teams or 5 Canadian teams or even 6 Canadian teams in, because that really dictated who played Saturday night, who played Sunday night. And there was a moment in time when the Edmonton Oilers were supposed to play Sunday night in LA, but the Kings pushed back. The Kings said, you know what, we don't draw very well on Sunday nights. Can we go Monday? Then there was even a thought that they might have to go Tuesday in that series. They actually settled on Monday, but then, and because of that, the Edmonton Oilers as a team played their last regular season game on a Wednesday in San Jose. Do they come home? Do they stay in California? What do? They eventually decided to stay in California, but to play 2 games in the playoffs, the Oilers are going to be on the road for 7 days, and that's not the most ideal situation for a team to have. That was the one thing that then said, okay, to the Jets, by the way, we want the Jets to go on Saturday because the Leafs wanted to play Sunday and Rogers wanted the Leafs on Sunday night as well. So that's why things started to happen the way they did. And they had to wait for Calgary to be eliminated, Montreal to qualify, and that's why it took so long.
Yeah, the Habs took their sweet time and finally booking that final ticket to the in the East, but they're there. And I have to say, and maybe this is Winnipeg bias showing, but for the NHL to be starting the Stanley Cup tournament and for Game 1 to be shown everywhere in the whiteout with that game we got between Winnipeg and St. Louis, I mean, pretty awesome way for the NHL to kick it off.
I think it was fantastic. I think the Jets Blues series has been the most entertaining series through the first 2 games. Now, there haven't been many 2 games so far, but if all 8 series, if you break them down, the Jets series is by far the most electric in my mind. It's got everything. It's got speed. It's got skill. It's got, hard hitting. It's got great goaltending. It's got tremendous involvement of the fans for the first 2 games in Winnipeg. And as well as I do, the crowd in St. Louis is going to be wild as well. It's the best series. It's the best series. And it would not surprise me with the balance in the games. It would not surprise me that we end up coming back after Game 4 and the series side is tied 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, listen, while everyone is feeling really good about what the Jets have done, it's maybe more impressive just by, how good St. Louis has been. I mean, this is, I have to admit, if you're St. Louis going back, you're disappointed you're down 2-0, but you know that you have been in each of these games, but also the price that needs to be paid to stay in these games, to do what you need to do. And I mean, I go back to game number 1, John, with a little bit of an iffy start for for Connor Hellebuck with the goals that went in. I mean, listen, great shots, but, when 3 of the first 10 go in the playoffs, people start wondering. And, to me, the breakaway save on Jordan Kyrou in the second period was so big for Hellebuck, but also big for the team. And then the performance that they put on the second half of that game, and in particular the third period, allowing St. Louis only 2 shots on goal. I mean, this was the team that we saw all regular season building up for the playoffs. And I think the Jets answered in a big way questions or critics or a lot of people said that they were a paper tiger because they had to be playing at a really, really high level to get those 2 wins in the fashion that they did against a Blues team that's not given an inch.
Well, let's remember, the Blues had a better record after 4 Nations than the Jets did. The Blues were I think, 5 points better than Winnipeg was. That's the one thing. The other thing was what you saw in Game 1, particularly the second half of Game 1, is something we didn't see in the Vegas series 2 years ago, and we certainly didn't see it in the Colorado series, is we didn't see panic. There was no, whether it was Game 1 or Game 2, in the Vegas series it was a Game 2. In the Colorado series, the track meet that occurred in Game 1 was pure and utter panic in order to try to win the game. We saw a team do what it has done all season long and play their system and not change from that one bit, whether that was late in the second period or certainly in the third. And they know they have it within themselves. And that's the one thing they've learned over these last 3 years, Andrew. I truly believe that the success of these first 2 games is the residue of everything that Rick Bowness brought, that Scott Arniel brought, that signing Hellebuck and Scheifele brought, and the consistency that they brought. That's what's happened in the first 2 games.
And I mean, as we've talked about, the difference between winning and losing these games has been really tight. And, listen, Connor Hellebuck is the engine of this hockey club. I think that since the Cairo breakaway, he's allowed 1 goal, has been very, very solid. The guy that we saw all season long. But, John, we all know your best players at this time of the year have to be your best players. And, man, have Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor had a great start to this playoffs.
They have, and so now you have to consider that, that Jim Montgomery's going to have the last change. Jim Montgomery's got to try to figure out how to shut down Scheifele and Connor. And so that's going to be a real problem, because if you look at the age and the speed of the St. Louis defense, they're older and they're not that fast. So that's the one thing that I think the Jets have taken advantage of. So then you have to stick it in the back of your mind, okay, if not Scheifele and if not Connor, then whom? And this is the perfect opportunity in my mind in these 2 games in St. Louis to see Cole Perfetti get back to that next level again. Who's had a great season. He's, in many ways, he and Sandberg are the 2 breakout guys on this roster. You've talked about it almost every day on this show for the last 3 months. There's no question about that. So to me, even without Ehlers in the lineup, they have to get a way to put Perfetti in that position to score. And that, to me, is going to be the key offensively for the Jets in the next 2 games in St. Louis.
You mentioned Dylan Sandberg, and, there's a clip, I think it was Dmitry Filipovic, whatever. It was basically just a highlight reel of just defensive plays by Dylan Sandberg. And I don't want to call him a revelation, because we've seen him from when he started continue to get better and better and better right now. But, man, that pairing with he and Neil Pionk have been doing it in both ends. And, obviously Logan Stanley got a lot of attention in the last game for that massive hit. Luke Schenn hits everything that moves. But the top 4 of the Jets, in particular the second pairing, very steady, making the right decisions, and, not doing anything that, could potentially open the door for St. Louis to take advantage of a mistake. It's been a real clinic on the blue line.
And that's playoff hockey. And again, I think that the guys have really learned that over the season, even into last season. The fact that Brendan Dillon wasn't re-signed, this management team knew that Sandberg was on the precipice of being in the top 4. and he needed that opportunity. And it would not have put him in good stead to leave him in the third pair anymore. It just didn't make any sense. And he has taken that opportunity. I mean, I love when he lugs the puck up the ice. I think it's fantastic to see a big man like that move the puck so well. And then I still love, he can still be physical. And he's going to need to be physical in front of Hellebuyck, because darn well the Blues are going to be a little more physical in front of Hellebuyck this time around in games 3 and 4. If Connor sees it, he can stop it. Well, if you look at the goals that were scored in game 1, the ones he couldn't see went in. And so the Blues are going to have to really increase the amount of traffic in front of Hellebuyck, and that's going to put a lot more pressure on a guy like Sandberg, who can move people around easily, and Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn. So that, to me, is a big key defensively. And then they have to do it, Andrew, without taking penalties. And so that's going to take a maturation and an understanding of what playoff hockey is all about. And what we've seen in the first 2 games, to your point, is they've been able to manage that.
It's funny you bring that up, the discipline and, and not taking penalties. And we're seeing, last night in Vegas, Nick Hague's punching Kaprizov in the face. And, there's some teams that do that. I thought that, and maybe the refs did this for a reason, but there was a couple of weird penalties. The Pionk headlock, the Schenn push. They didn't seem to have any tolerance, I should say, for kind of after the whistle stuff. And I was amazed. Game 2, John, for such a physical game with so many hits on every single play, there was not a lot of after the whistle BS. Both of these teams, and I'll credit the 2 head coaches knowing how important these power plays have been, are both playing with the discipline that they're going all out from whistle to whistle and then not worrying about getting an extra shot in afterwards and just going about their business.
Well, I think that's success begatting success. And when you talk about Scott and Jim getting credit for it, these 2 teams are impressive the way they've played in the last 2 months. And the players have bought into what the coaches are saying. So when the coaches say before the series started, when the coaches say between games 1 and 2, boys, don't be undisciplined. Don't do stupid things. The players are more apt to listen when you're winning. And both teams have created that. The stories of what Montgomery's done in St. Louis since 4 Nations, when he had the staff meeting with his coaches and say, we're just not doing this right. We're going to have to reanalyze how our team is playing, and we're going to have to get buy-in from the players. And they got it almost instantaneously, and it's proved them and got them into the playoffs. That's the same buy-in that Scott Arniel has had all season from his club. And so the players really understand it, but they only understand it if they're winning. And both teams are winning. And that's why I think it's been so effective. When Scott Arniel speaks, right now, they do listen. That's not the case in every dressing room in the National Hockey League. There are some guys that when they hear the coach speak, they just roll their eyes and in one ear, out the other. And they will do it their way. And if they win, that's a bonus. But right now, both coaches are using their messaging properly, and the players are effectively becoming the conduit of that, and they have the records to prove it. That's why I like this is razor's edge stuff, Andrew. In these 2 games, it's razor's edge. If I told you it could have been 5-3 Blues and 2-1 Blues in the first 2 games, I wouldn't be wrong. That's how close this series is. That's why I think this series is far from done.
Well, I'm with you to an extent. I would say certainly if you look at the first 40 minutes of both games, it's been, a toss-up. But I go back to the game on April 3rd, John. Where the Jets eliminated the Blues were on their 12-game winning streak. They came into Winnipeg
the Monday night game.
For the Monday night game that on Amazon, and the Jets played I mean, one of their more flawless games defensively. St. Louis only got 15 shots and had literally nothing in the third period. And then I think about what they did in game number 1, where they had to battle back, but they came back. St. Louis had 2 shots on goal. And even in a game where they were chasing the game after the Jets got the early goal in the third period to go up a goal, only 5 got through to Connor Hellebuck. It seems like the Jets in crunch time, in the third period where the games are decided, that is where they have been the better team. And I'll ask you, with all the physicality and the hitting that the Blues have started out these games with, are they taxing themselves too much earlier on and not having as much left? Or is this just the Winnipeg Jets, who've been winning games all season long, comfortable in these situations and being the better team? Because they really have dominated or owned the third period, and I think that's why they're up 2-0.
I think the Jets are plus 28 in the third period this season. I think this is part of their DNA, is that they wear you down and then they take over. I think that's certainly been a key to their success. And again, half of that is they know they can do it, and then they don't panic. If the Jets are down a goal in the third period, are you ever worried? No, I'm not worried. I'm not. Even if they're down 2, I wouldn't be worried. The way they can, just go to the net and use their speed. And some of the guys that can contribute make a huge difference to that, like Scheifele, like Connor, like Josh Morrissey. I mean, these guys know what it takes in the third period to do it. So that part, I don't have a problem. I would say that the one thing that the Blues, I'd like to know what's going on with Dylan Holloway. Are we going to see Holloway? Is he done? That's the one thing. He did not play in that game on the Monday night either. And so he had been such a huge asset for the Blues all season long. You do wonder if that has been an issue. And the other part is with the Blues and with the Jets and their speed, that defense for the Blues is, they're almost as old as you and me, Andrew. When you look at them, and the Justin Falks and the Ryan Suiters and the Nick Lettys, they're not spring chickens. And the Jets are taking advantage of that speed. And obviously, Nick Leddy's not healthy. So the Jets are taking advantage of that. And that's where the wear down, I think, in the third period occurs. It's when those veteran players are pressed into action in difficult times.
It has been, it's been just a great blend of playoff hockey by both teams. I mean, the Jets feeling good, being up 2-0, and now the work continues on the road tomorrow night. Late one in the Lou, probably a puck drop in and around 10-9 or so tomorrow. John, what has been outside of Winnipeg, St. Louis, what series has captivated you the most? I mean, what have you enjoyed the most watching on the now that all the series are underway?
Well, the Battle of Ontario is, again, it's watching the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have done in many ways what the Jets have done, and there was an expectation they would do it. I do think that Ottawa is going to be a different team in the nation's capital, so that one is open for interpretation. The third period in Los Angeles, what the Edmonton Oilers did, I think sent a huge message to the LA Kings that this thing is far from over. It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me that after 4 games, it's 3-1 Edmonton. And so much of the pressure there is going to be on Stuart Skinner to pull his part of the job for the Edmonton Oilers. Connor and Leon have been remarkable in that first game, but it took them 2 periods to get their act in gear. So that one, and then, it's hard not to get, not necessarily patriotic, but nostalgic when the Montreal Canadiens play the way they played in the third period against Washington, and to watch them come back and see what Nick Suzuki and Caulfield and Slavkovsky have done for that team. There's a good chance, we could have 4 teams in the second round in the Stanley Cup playoffs that are from Canada, and that would be an absolutely electric period of time in our country.
Oh, there is no doubt about that. Just on a couple things you mentioned. I mean, that Oiler King game was absolutely nuts. It looked over. And then
you stayed awake for it, Andrew, didn't you?
Oh, I didn't even get home till about half an hour after the game. I got to watch all these games at the same time, John. We've got a good operation going on here. But yeah, no, stayed up for it. And I mean, we were actually at the Jet game first, and then had gone out to post up and watch the rest of them. And I mean, that goal that McDavid scored was one where you got out of your seat at the bar top to say, what the heck was that? And then the Kings got that goal afterwards, but I'm sort of with you. I think that as pissed off as they'll be that they didn't finish the job in winning that game, to be able to do that to the Los Angeles Kings, the best team at home all year, a team that, just stifles offense, to know that is there for the Oilers, I actually think it's a big, big confidence booster. I really like them to win this game tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Pressure's on one guy on the Edmonton Oilers, and that's Stuart Skinner. I'm assuming he's starting. I think they'll give him one last chance to be the starting goaltender, and if they don't win tonight, we're going to see Calvin Pickard in Game 3 in Edmonton.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time the Oilers went on a long run with multiple goalies through a playoff run and a playoff series. Hey, just before we go, thoughts on Dallas, Colorado? This is obviously here for us. I mean, games that we're watching, we knew it would be one of the great series of the first round. Dallas seemed to really salvage the two games at home with that win, and now maybe can bring a little bit of momentum coming in. Although I'll tell you what, if Gabe Landeskog is out there tonight, I mean, the emotional boost that building, that crowd, and that team is going to get will be something special. But I'm not sure who you picked beforehand, how you thought it was gone, but just thoughts on that series so far as we switch to Denver.
I probably picked Dallas. Don't ask me why, but I did. I'm a little still concerned about the Dallas defense. Mm-hmm. Thomas Harley played 35 minutes the other night in Game 2 in the overtime game. That's a lot for him. Heiskanen's not playing, so that's another factor. The forwards for the Stars finally showed up the other night. That was, to me, the biggest difference. The one guy that really hasn't shown up just yet is Mikko Rantanen. And I finally started to believe that Rantanen now understands he's a Dallas Star. He's not a Colorado Avalanche anymore. He's a Dallas Star. So as much as I think the emotion, you're right, with Landeskog showing up, I would not be surprised to see this as Mikko Rantanen's best game. Forget about the playoffs, but his best game, period, whether it be for the Dallas Stars or the Carolina Hurricanes since the trade.
Well, they're certainly going to need it. John, I've been loving your continued contributions on pregame coverage and throughout the games over on 680 CJOB. As Paul takes us through the wild ride of the playoffs, here's to a long run of more of you on the show and popping on with us. Thanks so much for doing this and enjoy what should be a great slate of playoff action tonight before the Jets are back at it tomorrow in St. Louis.
Cheers. I'll never say no to you, Andrew. You know that.
We really appreciate you, John. Love the conversation. Thanks so much. There is John Shannon. You can make sure to give John a follow on X as well at JShannonNHL. Or I guess it's JShannoNHL because there's not two N's at the end of Shannon and in. And, of course, the 100% Hockey Podcast, wherever you get your favorite pods. Great stuff with John, as always. Hey, I want to give a big thanks to great WSTer Sean and Let's Do It Travel. Great to have them on board with us. And, of course, kind of been talking about, you're taking holidays. You're going away to Mexico. You're doing a big sports trip. You want to make it as good as possible, make the right choices, get good deals, and stretch your dollar as far as possible. And that is where, Let's Do It Travel can come in and help out with the best choices or research place to go. So when you're planning that precious week away down in Mexico, you're going to a great spot that people have been to before. You'll have a great time and get great value for your dollar. And guys, if you're planning a destination wedding, I think it goes without saying that better be 5-star and making sure you're hitting all the check boxes on the list for that. Our friends Sean at Let's Do It Travel can help you with all of that. And of course, even a great sports trip, planning for maybe that dream trip with you and your dad or son. Now, follow Let's Do It Travel on Instagram. There's a lot of great stuff there on the site at Let's Do It Travel WPG. You could also check them out online at letsdoittravel.com. He actually had a great piece up for people and Jet fans considering maybe going to St. Louis, scouting out some of the best and most convenient hotels. But here's the kicker. Let's Do It Travel is waiving their booking fees for all WST listeners. Just let Sean know that we sent you. You've got a buddy in the travel business with Let's Do It Travel. Get in touch today on Instagram at Let's Do It Travel WPG. Hit them up with a follow and letsdoittravel.com. Of course, Whiteout Mania is continuing all around the province as the Jets continue their playoff push. And of course, Princess Auto was the place for full support of Whiteout Mania, where you're going to pick up those signs. If you haven't got them already, they still have quantities in stock there. They're completely free. So just pop by Princess Auto on Panet Road, Princess Auto on Portage Avenue West. And of course, for Jet fans out west, Brandon location has them as well. And show your Jets pride wherever you can with the Whiteout Mania signs. And then, of course, the contest. For those of you that are doing crazy costumes or making a hype song or decorating your entire property all out in white for the playoffs, send your whiteout best, winnipegjets.com/whiteoutmania, and you can win tickets from the Jets and Princess Auto to be in the whiteout at Canada Life Center. Huge thanks to Princess Auto for what they do for our sporting community and, of course, for Winnipeg Sports Talk. Fishing season's coming up. Cannot wait to get out to Aikens Lake this year. As I mentioned, if you're thinking about maybe changing it up this summer, staying north of the border, I don't think you could have a better option than a fly-in fishing trip where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg at beautiful Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge with world-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Aikens team and the Turenne family. Hit them up online, aikenslake.com, for information and options on the 2025 fishing season, and make sure to check them out on all the socials at Aikens Lake. And hey, I mentioned we saw a lot of great white suits in the building on Monday night and out in the street party. You might not be looking for an all-white unit, but if you do need a new suit or men's clothing as we get into spring and summer and wedding season, F Apparel is there for you with the best in custom suits, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories. Don't forget that deal for 2025 grads. Free shirt and tie with the purchase of a new suit for 2025 graduates. And of course, a great discount for wedding parties when the fellas get their suits at F Apparel. You can find out in store, 190 Smith Street downtown, or check out their website at EPHapparel.com for more details and to book an appointment. All right, great stuff with John Shannon. We do have Brandon Rewucki coming up in just a couple of minutes, but wanted to get a little bit more of the coach and some Mark Scheifele as well, who spoke earlier today. Remo, let's just get right to the top of Arniel. And was talking about, obviously this season is going to shift to St. Louis. Monty's going to have last change. Here's what Scott Arniel had to say about matching up against the Blues top guys in Rob Thomas and Jordan Kyrou.
Obviously, when those elite guys are jumping on the ice every third shift compared to every fourth shift, there's still things that you got to be watching for. And that's a little bit for me. That's what I've mentioned there about I'm comfortable with whoever's out on the ice against those guys. They've done it all year, and knowing that they have to do it again. We'll see if they do that tomorrow. But at the end of the day, it gives them a different look, obviously, when Thomas is getting that much ice and, Buchnevich is playing that much and Kyrou, those guys, it certainly, that means the other side as well, that we have to make sure that we're continue to make it a hard game for them, make them defend, run into them when you get the chance, if they're going to log that much ice.
All right, so there's some Scott Arniel. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the physical nature of this series, and I think everybody's stepped up on the Winnipeg Jets. Cole Perfetti, I'm not sure whether he would have been prepared, ready for this a year ago. He certainly is now, and here's what Arniel had to say about how Perfetti in particular has adapted to the physical nature of the playoffs and this series.
Yeah, he's been great. He really has. I think that everybody has, both sides. You look at their side too. They're getting hit. We're getting hit. But the big thing is that everybody's getting back up and going right back into the battle. And these type of games, the hits are sometimes you can anticipate. It's those battles in the corners around the net front. And for me, that's where Cole, that throughout the whole season, that he's done a really good job of getting himself into the piles and coming out with pucks. The game-winning goal the other night, he's the one that pulled it out of the pile, sent it back to J-Mo, and it kind of reset itself back behind the net. But that's kind of him doing those little things that I ask of everybody else to do too.
One more from Arnie. Just his thoughts on the 5-on-5 play of his club through 6 periods.
Well, that's been our buy-in for the last few years, is how we defend. They have lots of skill over there, and they have a real good transition D-join in the rush game, and then offensively, they're a good cycle team. And we've always talked about that when we defend, we take away the guts of the ice, and it's no different in playoffs. Obviously, it gets a bigger sort of attention, both sides of them as well, trying to do it to us. But it's hard to get in the inside of the ice, and that's something for us that we've worked on all year long, not letting teams come in there for free looks. And that's something we're going to have to do right through the whole series, and throughout playoffs. That if we can keep teams outside, that's plays into our favor.
All right, there's Scott Arniel, and it's funny you hear that term, having teams play to the outside. Reem, I don't know how many times, we talked about the Jets 2 years ago in the playoffs, playing against the Vegas Golden Knights, playing against some of the top teams, kind of in the first year of the bonus era, I should say, that did improve last year. But when the Jets were having a difficult time generating offense, they were that team. They'd have the puck a lot. They'd have the puck a lot in the own end, but it was always on the boards. They just weren't able to find the open ice or the ice in the middle where most of the goals happen. And it really does seem that is what they have turned into, the team that does a very good job at limiting those chances and forcing the opposition, if they have the puck, to play within 2 or 3 feet of the boards.
Yeah, and you look at the goals that the Jets scored, you have Mark Scheifele taking it to the net on the first one. You take it to the net, good things happen. And Kyle Connor, he talked about trying to get inside all game. Well, he finally finds some space there in the slot, and Cole Perfetti hits him with a pass. And Kyle Connor, he's wide open there. He's got one of the best shots in the league and puts it past Binnington. And the Jets seem to have figured out their identity, figured out what style they need to play to win games. And one thing to have figured out, but another thing to execute it. And they're playing to their style. And as John Shannon said against Colorado in that game 1, it was a mess. And their defensive play was a mess. The whole series, Connor Hellebuyck had high danger chance after high danger chance. After the first couple minutes in game 2, once they settled down, really made it easy on Hellebuyck. And in a 5-on-5, the Blues haven't been able to get to the inside. The Jets are keeping to the outside, and he hasn't really had to make a ton of crazy saves. You're not having those on-man rushes, and if they can stay out of the box, and we'll see how that plays out in terms of what gets called next game. The Jets have a good chance of winning this series. So we will see how it goes in game 3. But games 1 and 2, you can check off, and they got the pucks in the plaque there in the dressing room.
Brandon's going to jump on with this in just a couple minutes. One of the things we didn't listen, we were focusing on the game and the goals and all that. We didn't really get into the standoff between Scheifele and Joel Hofer before the game, Reem. And I know Arnie mentioned that they were a little miffed with that. I mean, just that the fact that the Zamboni couldn't come out at the right time. I mean, it does put off a lot of other things that go into preparing for the game. And he said that yesterday, but just before we bring in Brandon, here's this clip. He was asked just how irritating Winnipeg native Joel Hofer was before game 2.
Not very, to be honest. I like to be off last. It's not a thing that really comes into my brain. I know the league and the Zamboni guys and the guys that take care of the ice. It's more, it's more about them. To get the ice ready for the game. So, Obviously, it's something I've done for my whole career. So, I just kind of wanted to get off the ice for the Zambonis guys to be able to get out there and do their job properly, and didn't pull a whole lot. I thought it was more funny than anything.
How did that start? Wanting to be the last guy on the ice?
I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even have an answer for you. It's just something I did, and it's kind of. I think I did rock paper scissors with Segs, a number of years ago. Honestly, it's just I don't know. You added some weird quirk about me, but all in good fun.
Hey, all the quirks are fine if you're playing the way 55 is right now for the Winnipeg Jets. Listen, Brandon Rewucki's jumping on right now. This segment's a presentation of your Prairie Toyota dealers, who want to remind you today is the last day to get into this amazing contest. We just heard from Mark Scheifele. How would you like a signed Mark Scheifele jersey? Oh, and that's not all. How about a signed Connor Hellebuck jersey for the back-to-back Vezina winner and a guy that might be winning the Hart Trophy as well? It also includes those 2 signed jerseys and some great Winnipeg Sports Talk merch. But today's your last day to enter, folks. There's a link in the description. Remis will throw the link in the chat. If you have not done it, get over and do it so you got a chance to win this great prize from our friends at Prairie Toyota Dealers. You can also, if you're listening on the podcast, you've still got time, go to @Prairie Toyota Dealers on Instagram or @Prairie Toyota on Facebook and get your entries in. Last call is today for that. And of course, your Prairie Toyota Dealers also want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Take the road less traveled in comfort and with room for teammates, friends, and gear. And can we talk about just how good this truck looks? Anywhere it goes, it can turn heads. From $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.19% APR with $66.99 down. Hybrid available as well. Visit shoptoyota.ca. All right, Brandon Rewucki's in right now. And Brandon, the vibes are pretty high. A great first couple games, and I think I feel even better about the wins because of just the type of playoff hockey that we've seen and the fact that the St. Louis Blues have shown up and played pretty damn well as well and given their best shot through 2. Oh, hold on a sec. You're muted. Is that on us, Reem?
I don't think so. He was working before. Try again,
Can you hear
Brandon.
me now?
There we go. There we go. I think the echo's on, though, Reem, so you're going to have to take care of that. Tom Gazzola, by the way, the handsome one. Geez, we've got a bunch of models joining us today. Gazzola later on, Rewucki right now. So where are you at right now in the series? Jets up 2-0, and man, these games have been excellent.
Yeah, sorry about that. But no, I totally agree. And what I would say is that, look, it's a long series to go still. I think St. Louis's big chance was in game 1. I was maybe the big surprise of the series so far to me, Huss, was that the Jets looked uncharacteristically nervous in that first game. Like they were playing tight, and maybe it's the expectations that are placed on them and how they know that this needs to be really the year where they go much deeper than they have in quite some time. But I thought if St. Louis wanted to make this a really intriguing matchup in the latter portion of the series, that was the game they needed to win. And that kind of leads me into what's been the most promising thing for the Jets so far, is that they have gotten better and better as each game's gone along. And that to me is maybe the biggest sign of a team that's destined to make this a deep little run to go on here. You'll see teams now and then, go on surprise runs and things like that where they'll come out of the gates firing and they hang on for dear life. But if you get better and better as the game goes along, especially come playoff time, that to me is the sign of a truly deep, strong, dominant team. And I've been most impressed by that so far. And then, like you said, game 2 specifically more than game 1, where, look, they're shorthanded right now. Like, it's easy to forget, but they're without 2 significant contributors. They're going to have to win 2-1 hockey games until the horses come back. So it's not going to be like we've seen some teams do. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be like, Florida against Tampa Bay, where they can just throw 6-7 by you and at the blink of an eye and not have to sweat too much about it. The Jets are going to have to win greasy, grimy. against St. Louis, against either Dallas or Colorado or whoever else it might be moving forward. So the fact that they could do so and not rely on Hellebuck to steal games, that I think really, really lends well to this team having some success in April and May coming up.
We saw the blueprint of what this team can and needs to do against the Blues on the 3rd of April in that game on Monday night. The Blues were the hottest team in the league. The Jets came in and put them in a locker, basically. I mean, they had 15 shots on the game. The Jets were clearly the better team. St. Louis has played at a much higher level, in my opinion, in the first 2 games. And I think you could certainly make the case that the games through 40 minutes both were very, very evenly played. It's the third period that the Winnipeg Jets have taken over and exerted their will on St. Louis. 2 shots in game number 1, and then only 5 in a period where the Jets scored in the first 2 minutes, and there was 18 minutes of them needing to push to score and still weren't able to do it. And to me, I mean, listen, and everyone gets credit on this. I mean, everyone in front of Connor Hellebuck. The Jets' ability to either come back, get the lead with big, strong performances in the third period, or play with the lead like they did with game 2, maybe bodes the best for Winnipeg moving forward. But are you agree? I mean, these games have basically been determined by Winnipeg dominating the final 20?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could make the case St. Louis has been the better team for the first 2 periods in each game so far. And I mean, you wouldn't really have much of an argument against that. So that's been the key to a 2-0 series lead, as opposed to this thing being tied or even worse right now. But I think that's ultimately what happens in games like this, especially when you're the top seed going up against, right? Like, they're going to throw their best at you in the early stages, but can they do that over 60 minutes, right? And right now, that's where the Jets have separated themselves from St. Louis here. But again, I think the most positive sign of that isn't the fact that they're giving up, very few goals. They're giving up very few shots and chances right now, right? Where, I mean, look, it's the save percentage might not look super great on Hellebuck's side, with the fact that they're giving up, 18 shots, 19 shots, pretty much in both of these 2 games here, low 20s. But, if they want to allow a little more traffic their way, you have Hellebuck as kind of the human eraser to end that. So I think defensively, they've been as sound as anybody could have hoped for, 5-on-5. The penalty kill, been a bit of that's probably the big issue they need to iron out here moving forward in this series and potentially the next one. But 5-on-5 defensive play, St. Louis, they're working hard for it, but Winnipeg isn't giving them a whole lot of ice and opportunities to try to throw Connor Hellebuck's way.
It's funny you mentioned the PK, because it did not get off to a great start. With what happened in game number 1. I think the discipline is getting better. I mean, the Luke Schenn penalty with Neighbor's helmet was sort of laughable. I guess it's an automatic one. But I think back to that PK, as well as kind of what happened in the second half. I think the Jets had the final 3 penalties against them, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. But much like the Jets throughout the games have gotten better, I would argue that the PK has gotten better after a bit of a shaky start.
Yeah, and even then, like, that's you're almost nitpicking a little bit, right? Because they're up 2-0. Territorially, they've held their own. Expected goals, how much of a believer you are in that come playoff time. I think in both games maybe, but for sure in game 2, the Blues had under 1 expected goal. Right, like they're doing their part right now, 5-on-5. I think maybe that Snuggerud power play goal was the wake up call a little bit, where it's like, okay, we're not going to be successful as a penalty kill, sitting back and allowing time and space for St. Louis to try to tee things up. Because even though they're the second wild card, they've got some great play. Like Snuggerud, that's an elite shot right there. Thomas and Carey, right? They are some of the slowly morphing into some of the elite in the NHL. So maybe that's the impetus for this team to get a little more aggressive, because that's when they're at their best on the penalty kill. I think maybe sometimes they lean and rely a little bit too much on, hey, we've got Hellebuck behind us, so let's not try to rush the issue too much. But that's when you put high-end guys in situations like that. And, once in a while, they're going to be able to beat your netminder. So hopefully that last goal is maybe the end of it here. Because, again, 5-on-5, I think even without Vilardi and Ehlers in the lineup, you think the Jets are going to be able to handle this series. And right now, the main answer that St. Louis doesn't have is, what do we do against Mark Scheifele in that top line? Because, once again, the playoff time, they're carrying the mail right now. Scheifele in particular is leading the way in a big, big way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know if we have enough time to talk about just how great those two guys have been together. I mean, Kyle Connor finds the space and, he's got a good release. The funniest part of Connor having the OT winner in the first two games has been all the consternation from American hockey fans going, what the hell were we doing putting this guy in the press box in favor of Chris Kreider for the gold medal game? But I do think about that Four Nations and Scheifele, Connor, Hellebuck, even Josh Morrissey, they all seem to come out of that with something to prove. And it seems to be, along with a bunch of other things that the team done well all year, manifesting itself into some pretty incredible playoff performance. And we all remember Mark Scheifele in 2017-18. What did he have, 14 goals and 17 assists? This is that playoff Scheifele that, frankly, a Winnipeg Jet team absolutely needs if they're going to go up against these top teams, especially as you move on, potentially facing the Stars or a McKinnon-led team. And who knows, if they're fortunate enough to win round two, what's coming out of the Pacific.
Yeah. No, it's not, it's mandatory. It's not like, oh, it's nice to have it. Like the way the Jets have really built their team and with the relative inactivity at the deadline to bring in a big piece, they've put all their chips into Scheifele's basket. Like he's got to play 20 plus minutes a night and he's got to deliver at both ends of the rink. Check so far. He's been absolutely outstanding. He's been Winnipeg's best skater. He's been Winnipeg's best player through the first two games. And I mean, that goal, the game winner in game one is, you kind of forget just how high-end elite players in the NHL can do things that, I mean, very few people on the planet can. But not only is it a design play there, but Scheifele with the presence of mind to receive the puck, quickly whip it across cross ice. Parayko's stick is what, a millimeter away? And then Connor to be able to elevate a pass of that speed and get it past Binnington, again, a millimeter away. It's the margins of error that only high-end players can deliver come playoff time, and that's what both of those guys have been doing so far. So, I mean, 100% full marks to Scheifele and Connor. They're doing what this team needs them to do. It has to continue each and every game, though, because, again, it's going to be tough for this team to put together 3, 4, 5 goal games with how shorthanded they are up front. But Scheifele's had a lot of detractors, and a lot of it has been earned. But one thing you can say with him is that come playoff time, he delivers. That's kind of always been his thing, is that you get him in some of these key moments up against some of the best in the NHL, and he tends to shine more often than he doesn't. So mandatory and very, very good to see so far through two.
Hey, we've been kicking this around for a couple days now. It's not going to really matter for game 3 because Gabe Vilardi was still in the non-contact jersey. But assuming Gabe comes back at some point in this series, where do you think he goes and what does that do to the rest of the lineup? Because it's been very clear that Alex Iafallo has not sucked any of the offense out of Scheifele and Connor. And you can make an argument that the 200-foot game, the forechecking ability, the dog that he is on a puck is actually a great compliment to those two guys.
Yeah, I don't know how you break that lineup right now. This is the tricky part, Huss. And this, not to pop the balloon too much here, but this is where the lack of experimentation earlier in the year is maybe going to bite them in the ass a little bit here. Because to me, the biggest maybe letdown through the first two games has been Vladdy Nemesnikov. I think Cole Perfetti has looked as good as he has over the last 2 months. I've been really, really pleased with his play, even if he didn't pick up the apple on Connor's goal in game 2. So he's looked great. But to me, that's been the big disappointment so far, is we haven't really seen Nemesnikov really maybe step up and try to elevate that secondary scoring line there. So it's tough because you're like, if you want to get improvement there, how do you rejig the lineup? Like Vilardi and Perfetti haven't gotten a shot down the middle this year. So it's like, well, we can't do that now, considering we weren't willing to test it out during the regular season. I think for me, I know I've been kind of waiting for it to happen with Nick Ehlers, but it's not an option for you right now. I think I would give a lot of consideration to going Lowry, Perfetti, and Vilardi as your second line. And then it does throw a bit of a wrench into what your bottom six looks like. But I'm looking to get my
try Vlad there first. Like, I'm kind of the opinion that if you put in Vilardi to the Ehlers spot, you let Nino come back with Lowry and Appleton. Tanev goes back with Morgan Barron. The bottom six certainly looks a lot more normal. You maintain number one, and I mean, Vilardi can maybe add a little bit more juice offensively and more pop to that line, albeit you'll miss maybe the bigger body and the physicality of Niederreiter, although Gabe has that club in his bag too.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not ideal, but I think for me, what it comes down to playoff time is I want to get my best guys out as often as I can. And for me, if and when Vilardi comes back, my next three best options are Lowry, Vilardi, and Perfetti. Let's throw them together. Like it's that simple for me. And maybe then giving Vladdy, you can pick and choose where he gets in. Maybe a little more ozone starts could potentially help him out and maybe try to kickstart a little bit of his game. But I think that gives you the best shot there because they haven't really gotten a whole lot out of any of the other lines so far, minus the fourth line, which has been great.
Well, and this is where I was going to go with that. If you are thinking about actually putting Adam Lowry with Cole Perfetti and Gabe Vilardi, I would give a long look at Morgan Barron actually playing in the Lowry role and potentially having Vlad on the fourth line, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I think that the way Barron is playing right now is very similar to what Adam Lowry does. Now, he might not have the defensive shutdown nature, but man, he's got the speed. And I think that he would click very well with the Niederreiter and Appleton in that sort of role, or potentially leave Tanev up there because, I mean, I think those guys play together. They do certainly have some options, but I think that would be one of them just because of how good Barron's looked in the middle if you have to move Lowry up the pole, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to do a power ranking of who's playing best right now, it would be Scheifele, Lowry, Barron, Vladdy down the middle. So I would have no issue with that either, Huss. And you're adding a little bit more size there as well. And I mean, with the way Braden Schen's running around right now, a little bit of extra size up front might not be the worst thing in the world to kind of, slow down what he's doing physically. So it's an interesting conundrum they find themselves in because, I mean, it's good problems to have again when you're up 2-love and you don't have to try to force the issue necessarily. But I would say it's not like this has been a complete surprise out of left field, right? Like it's not like, Scheifele having an off 2 games and you're like, well, we keep going back to it. He's going to find his game eventually here. Barron's kind of outplayed pretty much any center not named Scheifele for quite some time now. So, I mean, he's as far as merit goes, it would be a merit-based decision. I guess I would go with it that way. Whatever and whoever that is, though, there needs to be more out of the second line center. That's no doubt needed to be thrown there. Who that guy is ultimately is kind of an interesting decision the Jets are going to have to find themselves in.
And I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it because I think this lineup, a winning lineup, is going to stay exactly where they are. They played 2 pretty good games. And, yeah, would you like a little bit more offense out of that line? For sure. But they certainly are taking care of business when they're on the ice, as pretty much everyone on the team has so far. Elsewhere, what have you thought about Dallas, Colorado so far as the series heads back to Denver?
Well, I picked the Stars, unlike a lot of other people out there, and I feel pretty good about that, man. Like, it's been a couple tight games.
Very.
I mean, Colorado was. I think Colorado was fortunate in Game 1. I know it kind of got out of hand score-wise at the end.
That first goal was one of the most bizarre goals I've ever seen in the playoffs. I mean, a perfect rock. I mean, like Ronaldo doesn't do kicks into the top corner like that. Now, I'm not saying that he tried to do it. It was just so weird. And then you have that knuckler right afterwards, and all of a sudden it's 2-0, and it changes the game. I thought Dallas coming back the way they did, playing the way they did in the third period, winning that game in OT, they said series on. And from a Jets perspective, I've been saying all along, I don't really care who wins this series. Just give me 7 games, 3 or 4 overtime games, maybe a double or triple OT mixed in there. And I got to tell you, after what we've seen in the Lone Star State in the first 2, I think we might be coming along that path or storyline of some late nights and 7 games.
I'm with you. I'm with you. That's how I thought the series was going to play out, even with the injuries Dallas is dealing with right now. It's going to be tight. There's not really a whole lot separating both of these teams, and I think the Stars might play the Avalanche better than any team in hockey, and I think that maybe is being forgotten about a lot in all the discussion here. Like, the Avs are, no doubt about it, a legitimate force, but Dallas just matches up with them extremely well. And there's something they do team-wise where they can at least limit the damage from McKinnon and Makar. And that's maybe been the biggest surprise, is Makar's been oddly quiet so far through 2 games. McKinnon at least is finding his way on the man advantage. But you wonder if maybe the switch back to Colorado gives a little bit of a bolt in the Avalanche here. And I think Jared Bednar's been saving Landeskog's debut for home ice. It might be a tough one for Dallas to pull out Game 3. So hopefully the Stars can find a way to tie it up in Game 4.
I mean, listen, they're a big dog tonight. I think these games are basically coin flips going from here. I don't think home ice is going to mean that much in the game. And in fact, sometimes you see the road teams play even a little bit freer. But anyways, I know you got to run. Thanks for doing this. We'll look forward to more playoff. I guess, Friday you're going to crank out a new skates and plates after Game 3?
Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully a nice and early W for the Jets, and we don't have to stress too much about it. But Friday morning we'll come out with a Game 3 breakdown.
Perfect. Well, the game's going to start at about 9 o'clock, so good luck with that late night recording. But hey, that's the commitment that the Jets fans expect from all of us in this space. Brandon, thanks for doing this, buddy.
That was good. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk soon.
Good stuff. Looking at, let's get to a little fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see is what you pay. And certainly for selling tickets, great customer service. You know exactly what you're going to be getting back, and you get paid immediately the next day after the game. Check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. Interesting, just some comments in here. I see BA has said that Lowry, 17, has never been a point-producing center. I will disagree with that a little bit, BA, in saying that he is in the playoffs. I mean, Adam Lowry's 5th all-time in playoff scoring. Adam Lowry consistently comes up with big goals in the playoffs, and I think maybe it's the nature of the games, the amount of time that he's out there, his matchups. But I mean, listen, is he your traditional second-line center in the league? No, but you like when you have that guy out there, and I would have some time, with him potentially with the Perfetti and maybe a Velarde, like Brandon suggested. At some point, I mean, I know people are mentioning Cole, and BA says 91 will probably never play center on this team. I mean, never is a long time. I guess we'll see in the short term this year. I'll agree with you on that. And again, Velarde really hasn't played center here before, although Morgan Barron hadn't either. And Barron has looked really good. Now, Johnny Bender says, whoa, pump the brakes on that, Huss. Barron has played great, yes, but going up against teams' top lines, I'm not sure I want to experiment in the playoffs. Listen, I'm not sure that line necessarily gets the exact same matchups as the Lowry line, because I guarantee you if Adam Lowry moves on to that top line, the second line, if you will, with the Perfetti, with the Velarde, they're still going to have a matchup against, one of the top teams. So I think that that conversation might be a little overstated. I guess I'm just saying that if we are based on the premise that Lowry moves up, I would feel just as comfortable with Morgan Barron going up, as the third line of the Winnipeg Jets as I would with Vlad. But I've got a lot of time for what Vlad's done so far. I mean, you'd like to get a little bit more offense in there, but they've been doing well. Perfetti's playing really well. Niederreiter has been an impact player. They've spent some time on the other team's end. So, as I said, these are good problems to have, and even better when we're talking about getting Ehlers and Velarde back into the lineup, hopefully at some point this year. Keep it coming. And we've also got, look at this for the why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. How confident are you in a Jets sweep? 12% bring out the brooms. 27% let's see game 3. 18% St. Louis will fight back. And 43%, the old adage of the coach, one game at a time. I'm with you. I think we're not there yet to be talking about that. I like 27% of you that say, let's see game 3 and that one game at a time. And we know St. Louis is going to fight back. I mean, they've had a lot of fight back in these first 2 games. It just hasn't gone their way. We are going to head out. By the way, fan feedback, as always, brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check it out, fansfirst.ca. Tommy Gazzola is coming up in just a minute. If you are getting ready for tomorrow's game and you have not yet been down to Royal Sports to check out their whiteout section, I would not wait any longer. Now, we are waiting for the 2 new, you see this lid that everyone was talking about when I got it the other day. Those are sold out. But 2 new versions of the New Era Royal Sports Jets collab lids are going to be coming out very soon. That's why you should be following at Royal Sports Winnipeg on on Instagram. So when it all drops, you'll know about it right away. Other great, latest merch coming in, everything for spring, bikes, baseball, soccer, you name it. But right now, if you are looking for the best in white Jets merchandise, get it before it's gone at Royal Sports. So many beauties while supplies last. 750 Pembina Highway for all of that. Pop down and tell them the WST boys sent you. Man, we were hitting that new BP playoff menu. And there is some real good stuff. I know Tom Gazzola has been scarfing down the Canadian All-Star Poutine. It's actually been starting a bit of controversy in the in the EST streets. That's the one with bacon strips, cheese curds, pizza mozzarella, and maple gravy piled on fries and topped with green onions. Pretty darn good. Pizza flights are back, and I'm staring down that new triple pep pizza. And the Wingman pizza as well, which looks pretty good. Tonight and every night throughout the playoffs, take advantage of the great new Boston Pizza playoff menu and get together with your gang for the big game at your local BP. Tommy's coming up right now. Let's give a big cheers on our way into Tom to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Remember the Cookie Monster from Sesame Street? Well, the Poutine Monster from Edmonton Sports Talk. Tom Gazzola joins us now. Talk some playoffs and get ready for a big game too tonight. Tommy G, what's going on? How are you?
I made good on that. I made good on it, Huss. I went at Boston Pizza for game 1. We were live on location on Monday at Boston Pizza Westgate. They're fantastic over there. I ordered a poutine with the maple gravy and the bacon strips, and I presented it to Dustin Nielsen as a token of appreciation for allowing me to eat all of it last week. Now, the controversy is the folks at BP hooked us up with the sampling of the playoff menu, and I said, Dusty, I'm going to have half the poutine. You're going to have the other half of the poutine, and that way nobody complains. He goes, okay, great. So I take half from the plate. I put it on my plate, eating. I'm at the table. I'm enjoying the delicious lunch that we're having. He takes off, and our listeners were there on location with us, which is fantastic. He was gone, Huss, for half an hour. And then he comes back, and the rest of the poutine, which was supposed to be his half, was gone because I ate it. Why? Because he was gone for half an hour. It was congealed gravy by the end, and I figured he wasn't going to be eating it. Then I looked over a couple of times during that half hour he was away from our table. He was scarfing his face with other people. Pizza, nachos. I'm like, this guy got a full meal. I may as well have this delicious poutine. So there was a controversy to the point where Jason, the manager and owner of Boston Pizza Clairview, where we were that day, went to the security footage and he confirmed my timeline. So that's where I think I have some defense in this. And because I'm a good guy and I felt bad for Dusty, who really wanted to have some of that poutine, I ordered him one the other night for game one and he enjoyed it. And then a shout out to Jason and the crew from Boston Pizza Clairview who brought us at EST in our studios. The whole crew was able to sample the playoff menu.
Hey, is that the BP with that massive TV?
Yeah, they had a fire last year.
Oh my God. I mean, folks, if you're out in Edmonton, I mean, all the BPs are great to go to watch games, but this one, we were doing the lock shop. I couldn't even concentrate on Dusty because this monster screen was right behind him. Looks like and I imagine certainly BPs around here are going to be busy for this Oilers-Kings game tonight. I imagine they'll be fired up in northern Alberta all around for this one. I mean, what a crazy start to the series.
It was a crazy start.
Oilers, I mean, played brutal for 2 periods. They get a late goal with 6 seconds left to maybe give some sort of chance of getting back into the game and then storm back in. I still can't get over how beautiful that tying goal was by McDavid. And then they give up one in the final minute and lose. So where is everybody at right now? I mean, I would argue, Tom, that doing what they did in the third period in that rink against that team, even though they lost, which, you know, is a tough pill to swallow, they know they can get at these guys and score goals. And that a lot of teams have not had a much ease doing that so far this year. They're still down 1-0, but where are things at heading into tonight?
I think overall for the Oilers, I know they're probably pissed off, and they sounded, cheesed about what happened, as they should. That's a tough way to lose after battling the way they did in the third period. But I think that comeback in the third basically told the Oilers that, oh no, this is the same LA Kings team we've played the last 3 years at this time of year. They know how to handle LA. I think that game also woke the Oilers up into having to get into playoff mode. They have a tendency to ease their way into series. I think with that loss in game one, that makes them 3-11 in game ones in the McDavid-Draisaitl era, which is not particularly great. I mean, I kind of described it as playing with your food, Huss, and this Oilers team has a tendency to do that. They play their best when their back's up against the wall. They don't handle praise very well, and so, they put themselves into this spot. And we had a lot of hate on the post-game show for Stu Skinner. There was a lot of vitriol for Chris Knobloch going for the kill because he had all the momentum in the third period, leaving McDavid and Draisaitl and the top guys out there for 4 minutes out of the last 5.
Well, touch on that for a minute, because I actually tuned in to hear the EST post-game show afterwards, and your boy Cass, I thought that was very interesting to hear. He was sort of hanging that one on Knobloch, saying it was it was reckless to have those guys with how much they had played to get that game back even, to still have them out there. Because it was very clear. I mean, Draisaitl in particular, they were just a few steps behind those other guys tonight because they'd basically been out for half of the third period. Yeah, and well, Deneau was Draisaitl's guy, and I know he fanned on that shot, and the knuckler beats Stu Skinner with Warren Fogle jumping in front of him and Evan Bouchard not clearing the front of the net, which is very typical of Evan Bouchard to not pick up an assignment like that.
But Draisaitl was sucking wind because that was Danault was his guy, and he was so tired that he was not there to even disrupt Phillip Danault and not allow him to get a shot on. And I know how that circus or that series of events was a bit of a circus, but that is, valid. And Cass stood by that, and he makes a great point. I thought if they had gone to another line and allowed McDavid and Draisaitl to rest up and even gone into overtime, Edmonton had all the momentum. And the other thing, too, Cass talked about on the pregame show, Huss, was creating doubt. And what he meant by that was create doubt in the minds of the LA Kings. And even though the Oilers didn't win that game, that comeback in the third period that they had, I think did a good job in successfully creating doubt in the minds of the LA Kings. And if that also creates confidence in the minds of the Oilers collectively, that they can rest assured that this is essentially the same Kings team that they've been facing the last few years, that's arrow up Edmonton, because then they know that they've got these guys where they want them. They just got to go in and execute better, because the first two periods, man, some stupid mistakes, guys who shouldn't be making bad plays, continuing to make those bad plays. I mean, again, I harp on Evan Bouchard, but two of those goals were him just making bonehead plays with the puck in his own zone. Absolute bonehead plays. You give up a delicious triple pepperoni deep dish pizza from Boston Pizza into the slot. Phillip Danault buries it. Then you throw an absolute grenade at your defensive partner, Darnell Nurse, behind the net. And then, two quick passes later, Adrian Kempe slipping it by Stu Skinner. Just absolutely egregious. And he has had an offensively fantastic season once again. Defensively, disaster. And that has continued, at least so far, through game one.
This game to me is so crucial in that if the Oilers can get a win tonight, I think they're set. I mean, you get home ice advantage back. You've got some momentum coming back. If they don't win, if the Kings are able to finish the job tonight and get up 2-0, knowing that you still have to win all of your home games and win another game at Crypto.com, that is a very tough situation to be in. Will Evander Kane save the day? EK9 making his season debut tonight, we hear?
I think he can have an impact, without question. I think more so on the physical side of things. Listen, you guys know Evander Kane just as well as we do here at Edmonton. No lack of confidence.
Oh.
No lack of confidence whatsoever. Now, he's not as young as he was when he was a Jet. He's an older guy in his 30s now.
He's more mature now.
That's what, yeah.
He's gone through a lot.
He has. He's a family man, which is great. But I have my doubt, where are his hands going to be? Where is his timing going to be? And the right answer, I'm pretty sure, is not where they need to be.
How long has he been skating?
Well, he's been skating for a month. He's been practicing with the team for about 3 weeks. So that's good. And that's why I say his physical game could probably provide a beneficial impact for the Oilers tonight. If he is finishing checks, if he is making Kings defensemen know that they don't have that extra half second or second to make a play, that's a difference maker. And then, listen, if he bangs and crashes and scores an ugly goal or two, fantastic. I'm not expecting him to dipsy doodle through anybody, but I'll take it Evander Kane, who is now healthy and hasn't played a full season of hockey, over Kasperi Kapanen any day of the week. I'll take him over Jeff Skinner, which is the situation tonight, because I think he's built for the playoffs. Evander Kane is way better than
at least Skinner. At least Skinner, after 1,000+ games in the NHL, finally can say, I have played in a playoff game, even if he's a healthy scratch for game 2.
Great. That's fantastic, and I'm happy for him too. But you know what? That doesn't allow us to be like, oh, we feel sorry for him. Let's play him again. A lot of texts that came into our station this morning would be like, oh, I feel so bad for Jeff Skinner, gets it to his first playoff game, and now he has to come out because Kane is back. Yes, you put your best lineup in because you're playing for the Stanley Cup. There's no pity here. I'm sorry, Jeff Skinner. You're a nice guy. You've played 1,000 NHL games. Now you've played one NHL playoff game. But there are people who could provide a bigger impact than you that are ready to go. So no sympathy from me. Happy he got the first one. Pretty sure we'll see him again this postseason. But I kind of laughed when I heard people go, I feel so bad for Jeff Skinner. Well, that's great.
Hey.
But you know who doesn't? The people that want this team to win a Stanley Cup and want their best players in the lineup.
Or the LA Kings.
Or the LA Kings. Thank you.
Well.
Good point.
Hey, before we go, did not take long for Knobloch to go to the nuclear option in the playoffs. 29-97 together again on a line, and I imagine that's the way things will start tonight.
Looks like it is. They'll have Corey Perry on their line, so we're gonna start nuclear here with game 2. But I think you want to kind of take the game as opposed to chase the game. That's probably the rationale from Chris Knobloch. And then Kane's going to play with Nugent Hopkins and Hyman. So that's a good second line. Nugent Hopkins was a ghost in game 1. He needs to be way better. You've got good forwards. There's depth on this team, especially up front, Huss. So the lines we've come to learn, especially this year, don't get too attached to the lines going into a game because it takes all of 5 minutes for Knobloch to completely change them. So this is how they will, quote unquote, start. But you know what? We could be 10 minutes into this first period and you got these lines completely shuffled and the bingo balls will be out, just depending on the situation.
Tommy, always great having you on the program. I know how it goes in this business. I mean, we're going to watch this hockey game and we're going to get one of two things on the EST post game show.
Yeah.
We're either going to hear full 100% confidence. There's the first of 16 wins from Oiler fans as the series goes back to Edmonton 1-1, or absolutely unhinged chatters saying it's over after 2 games.
Yeah. Well, they do that around here. You know how it is. You know this market. I'll tell you what, though. I don't have to yell about Josh Brown playing .454 and being an absolute useless defenseman on the team after he had not skated Huss for a full month. Gets called up, plays 2 games at the end of the year, and gets scored on a minute into his first game of the playoffs with the Oilers. Useless, dumb decision. And I got a little bit.
I guess Klingberg's in now? Like that's because he wasn't able to go?
Well, you know, there's another great. How much time do we have? I know none. But my goodness, the penchant for going and getting damaged goods with the Oilers management team is incredible. It's like Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson drop in the leftover section at the grocery store. You know, the 50% off at the end of the night. Like, injured, bad ankle. Let's get him. Great price. Oh, 2 hip surgeries. Great price. Let's get him. Roby Orvetti just made his NHL debut, tore his knee. Let's trade away our first-round pick from 4 years ago for him. Great. Brilliant stuff.
How often does Holloway and Broberg get brought up in the chat?
Every single day. Every day.
Holloway's not even playing, but what a season he had. And you think about the money they spent on Skinner and Arvidsson that prevented them from signing those guys to deals that would be less than what they're making right now is still one of the bigger gaffes we've seen in recent NHL history. But they got 29-97 who can make up for a lot of missteps. We'll see whether it can happen tonight. Tommy, have a great show tonight and enjoy the game. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Huss. Always a pleasure.
Good stuff. There's Tom Gazzola, Edmonton Sports Talk. He'll be live after the game tonight. So, when you're finished up watching that game, throw on the EST and see what Tommy's got cooking. And it's going to be one or the other, 2 ends of the spectrum, and there's no in between for this one tonight. Hey, let's do a quick Breezy Bend golf report. This is a fun weekend on the PGA Tour. It is the Zurich Classic, which is the one time on tour all year long they play in pairs. And I'm going to be paying close attention to our all-Canadian team of Adam Hadwin and Nick Taylor, who have played, I believe this is their 3rd time playing together we actually went through and did our picks on the lock shop today. And we were all fired up to bet on Fargo's Tom Hoagie and Billy Horschel. And Billy Ho has apparently had to pull out. Shane Lowry and Masters champion and Grand Slam winner Rory McIlroy are the heavy favorites to defend their title that they won last year. That gets going tomorrow in New Orleans. Of course, all our golf reports all year long are brought to you by our great friends over at Breezy Bend Country Club. If you're looking for a long-term home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, Breezy is the spot. Give our pal Corey Johnson a call at the clubhouse or find out more online at breezybend.ca about getting on the waiting list for Breezy Bend. And, of course, we'll look forward to seeing everyone out at the Manitoba Open this year as Breezy Bend hosts once again after a pretty long time away. Be a great chance to show off the new course improvements and the clubhouse. We'll be down there doing shows later on this year in August for the biggest tournament of the season here in Manitoba. All right, I do want to get to the Coolbet lines and talk with Remis about what is coming up tonight on the docket. But we promised a little bit of Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey as well. They both spoke earlier today. Remo, let's just get to the top of the Scheifele. We heard him on Joel Hofer. Just kind of wanted to get to that. But Scheifele knows that the matchups are going to be tough, and there's a good chance there's going to be a lot of Robert Thomas. Here's what Scheifele had to say about the matchup against the Blues' #1 center.
I think he's, first of all, I think how intelligent he is at the game. His hockey IQ is pretty phenomenal. He sees passing lanes that not a lot of people see, and obviously his shot is something that I don't think people talk about that much. But he's got a fantastic shot. But he kind of does everything. He PKs. He's dangerous every time he's on the ice. He makes a lot of great plays out there. He's a tough opponent every shift you're against him.
All right, there's Mark Scheifele, who has been the catalyst for the Winnipeg Jets so far. But he was talking about the team here, just thoughts on the first two games and what he believes the Jets have done the best.
It's tough to pinpoint just one thing. I think we've played a good team game. No matter what the game brings, we kind of stick to our game plan, stick to what we do best, and go from there. And they've both been super hard fought games. Kind of right to the end kind of games. So obviously we're happy with getting the 2 wins at home, and obviously it's going to be a big test going to St. Louis and playing in front of their fans. So we're excited for the challenge and ready to get rocking.
One thing they can lean on is just how well they played on the road this year. Here's what Scheifele had to say on his thoughts on why the Jets have become the top road team in the NHL.
NHL this season.
I don't know. Especially during the season, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I think just next man up. You don't have last change. You just go out and play against whoever you're playing against and do what you can. And I think our whole squad, top to bottom, has done a great job at that.
Mark, every player wants to elevate their game on a bigger stage in the playoffs. Not everyone can do it. We've seen you do it in the past. It certainly looks like you're doing it again. What is it about playoff hockey that brings out the best in Mark Scheifele?
This is what we play for. You play 2 games to get to the postseason, and it's definitely not hard to get excited for these games. So it's been a good start, and just want to keep it going. Like I said before, it's gonna be a tough test going into their building. We know they're gonna be ready, and it's gonna be another tough test. So we're just excited to get there and put our best foot forward.
As much as people probably tried to forget for a few years the 2019 playoffs, the Jets did lose the first 2 games at home and then went to St. Louis and won back-to-back in Game 3 and Game 4. They've also had a lot of success in St. Louis recently, and certainly against the Blues over the last couple of years. Here's just one more from Scheifele on the success they've had in St. Louis this year and those 2 road wins in 2019.
I think it goes out the window. It's a new animal, especially come playoffs. We know their fans are going to be rowdy and loud and excited. So as well as their players. So it doesn't really bring it really doesn't come into effect, previous stuff. We're just, ready to get playing again and hopefully, get some wins down there.
All right, we're going to hear from Josh Morrissey in just a minute. A quick update from the Blues practice today. No Robert Thomas. He reportedly was walking around gingerly after the last game. Fully expect him to play tomorrow. But Matthew Joseph was a placeholder for him on that top line with Buchnevich and Jimmy Snuggerud. Obviously, we'll be all over that tomorrow with the details from the morning skates on a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Josh Morrissey also met the media before getting on the bird to St. Louis. Here's Morrissey on going up against the Blues' top guys.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have some really high-end skilled forwards, and when the team goes down to 11-7, I mean, as you said, there's everyone kind of ends up playing with everyone. Usually, that gets their top forwards out there more often. So, as a D-man, you have to keep your head on a swivel, exactly as you said, for who's out there, and if all of a sudden. They're sticking out one of their top guys, like I said, with anybody. So at the same time, we've talked about it all year. All 60, everyone's got to be comfortable playing against everyone, top lines, fourth lines, everything. So, and obviously going on the road here now, that's what we'll see with not having the last change. So definitely, as I said, something that you got to be aware of who you're out against, but that's every game in the NHL.
Topic of the Jets' success on the road was a big topic today as they look to continue that. Here's what Morrissey had to say about the Jets' success away from Canada Life Centre this year.
Well, I think it's the depth of our lineup. I mean, as I mentioned before, everyone on the road plays against everybody with, the way the matchups shake out and not having last change. So I think our depth, our structure, obviously being prepared to play on the road, all those things. But, when you go on the road, sometimes it's easier to just simplify your game. And, I think that's something we've done a good job of. So, playoffs, we're going to have to continue to try to do the same things that made us successful on the road this year.
All right, Josh Morrissey, and just one more from the assistant captain and the leader on defense. Morrissey was asked about their success this year and what makes the Jets the team they are at 5-on-5.
Well, we've had some great saves at big moments, obviously. We pride ourselves on being a good defensive team, not giving up a lot of volume of opportunities, and big scoring chances against. So there's always going to be some every night, and you're trying to clean that up, trying to not give up anything. But we've done a good job of limiting too many, high danger chances, and obviously committing to doing the tough things, blocking shots, and tracking back, and not giving up those type of situations. So we're going to have to continue to improve. There's areas we can get better at that from the first two games, and but it's the commitment to playing hard D that we've tried to make a staple of ours all season, and certainly this time of year it's extremely important. We'll have to keep all four lines, all 60, committing to playing hard D.
All right, so there you have it. Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey from earlier today before the team went wheels up to the Lou for Game 3 tomorrow night. They say 8:30. Mark my words, the puck will drop in and around 8:52, as we've seen for some of these 8:30 quote-unquote games, particularly in the Central Division. We got another one of those tonight. Dallas and Colorado going at it. Let's get over to the Coolbet lines and see what's cooking tonight in the National Hockey League. Starting it off at 6 p.m. tonight with Game 2 between the Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals. And I believe this is the exact same line we got in Game number 1. Capitals minus 182 faves on the money line. The Habs plus 153. The game did go to OT. It was 3-2. The under 6 is minus 122. The under 5.5 is plus 105. Might be something to consider as well. Caps puck line to win by 2, minus 137. The game I mean, listen, I'm fired up for both of these late games. Dallas, Colorado. Colorado minus 189 home favorite. I think Dallas is not priced well. And to me, this should be a much closer line. I think I'm going to take Dallas just, for the value there. I see this game as being more of a coin flip. Dallas is plus 158 tonight. And the Colorado Avalanche are minus 159. And then it's the Oilers and Kings. Kings minus 125 faves. The Oilers are plus 106. Obviously, we just had a great chat with Tom about the momentum that the Oilers built but couldn't maintain in the final minute of the game. It'll be very interesting to see whether we get more of the third period Oilers or this looks more like the Kings basically all year being very, very tight at home. We did put together a lock shop partner parlay today, and we're going to take the Caps on the money line, taking the Oilers at plus 106, and we're going to add Dallas tonight at plus 158. I mean, maybe a little risky, could go either way, but with a big number like that, it got it to plus 724, and then they boosted it all the way to plus 833. So certainly we've got the odds in our favor. Can the Dallas Stars get back up on the Avalanche? It would be great because, again, that makes it more likely of going the distance to a full 7 games. And what the heck, let's mix in a couple periods of overtime too. But Washington, Dallas, Edmonton is the partner parlay that's boosted to plus 833. You can find that over in the Coolbet exclusives. Now, Remis, we've done throughout the, really the season, always paying attention to the futures, but I'm quite interested to see how the odds change from game to game, depending on who wins and who loses. Now, remember yesterday we were saying the Jets were the second lowest odds to win the Cup?
Yes.
Well, the Florida Panthers won a game, and I said, if you like Florida, get in yesterday at 9-1 before they played a game. They're now 7-1, and the Avalanche are 7-1 as well. And the Jets have gone from plus 675 to plus 750. The Leafs down to 8-1 after their win last night. Vegas is still at 10-1. The Kings and Caps 11-1. Very disrespectful to Washington, by the way, with the season they've had. Dallas 13-1 and Edmonton 15-1. Both those were 14 and 16 yesterday, so I think there has been some action. However, despite the Avalanche being plus 700 to win the Cup and the Jets plus 750, the Jets are actually still the favorite to win the West. Plus 325 on Winnipeg, plus 350 on Colorado, plus 450 on the Vegas Golden Knights. 15-1 for the Minnesota Wild. St. Louis 60-1, down 0-2, and a pretty nice number on the Oilers, actually, a plus 850. Considering if they win the game tonight, that's going to completely flip, and they'll be right there over with the favorites. Also at Coolbet for you, NFL Draft Nicks, there is a ton of props for the NFL Draft tomorrow. I've seen a lot of talk about Ashton Jonty, the running back from Boise State, potentially going in the top 5. He's right now minus 167 to be the 5th overall pick. Cam Ward, the heavy favorite to go first overall. And then you can, make your predictions for the 6th pick, the 7th pick, the 8th pick. Basically all the selections. And then you can also go to your team and bet on the position of the first drafted player by that team. If you know your team's going for a corner or go for O-line, you can lock that in at a pretty good number. Again, all teams available. Give yourself a bit of some time to go through the offerings for the NFL Draft. Right now at Coolbet, we mentioned the Zurich Classic. That tees off tomorrow. Get your picks in for that. There's Live, Mexico City, and a full slate of Major League Baseball games as well. Blue Jays are in Houston to take on the Astros. That's a pick 'em. Minus 108, minus 110 on either side for that one. And NBA playoffs continue as well. What do we have tonight? Magic and the Celtics. Celtics 10.5-point favorites. The Cavs 12.5-point favorites against the Heat. Golden State and Houston Coming up later on, Houston minus 159, Golden State plus 134. Those are your 3 games tonight. Of course, the futures are all up for all NBA series and all NHL series right now over at Coolbet. Head to coolbet.com. Use the promo code WST for your first deposit. Make sure you're getting that 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And we'll keep you posted as to when, kind of depending on the playoffs, when we're going to fire up another Lock Shop Poker series, which has been so much fun. And I can't wait to do that again on an off night for the Winnipeg Jets. Good stuff today, Remo. We made it through, and then tomorrow we'll actually have more from St. Louis as we count down to puck drop. And I guess Murat will join us from St. Louis to tee this one up as well, as he's on the road with the Athletic.
Yeah, Murat is in St. Louis. We'll also chat with his colleague, also from the Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford. He's good to join. Give us the Blues perspective. We want to get the load on what's going on with Rob Thomas. He keeps missing practice. He's expected to play, so we'll get the Blues perspective tomorrow. The game day show has been pretty big, Huss. People want to count down, get ready for the game. A lot of fun in the chat. So exciting stuff. I do want to give a shout out to Tristan Rivers Music. It's his birthday today. He subtly noted in chat he's going to buy a birthday guitar. So happy birthday, Tristan.
New axe for Tristan. Well, yes, definitely happy birthday to Tristan, one of the most influential figures in WST history amongst the chat, with all of the Marble Race intro songs, the new one we had for the playoffs, which fired everybody up. Of course, we'll be doing that on Friday. Hopefully, Friday could be a great show. If the Jets can win tomorrow night, oh man, heading into the weekend, knowing there's a couple days before Game 4 on Sunday, the vibes will be, I mean, they're already high, but man, if they can just keep this rolling, talked about just how beneficial it could be for a team like Winnipeg if they can take a very, very tough and taxing series and make it kind of short, which they have the opportunity to do, leaving Winnipeg with the 2-0 lead. Could bode very well for future series and what is left in the tank in what is always a war of attrition in the Stanley Cup playoffs. What do you like tonight, Remo? Dallas, Colorado, Edmonton Kings, Montreal, Washington. Who are you taking in those 3?
Yeah, I think like Washington, but minus 182, not so sure. And I'll go with the Kings. Us at home, they've been pretty awesome at home, and minus 125. Better payout than Colorado and Washington. Interested to see if Gabe Landeskog plays.
Yeah,
it sounds like he's going to. They faked everyone out last game, and
then he took the warm up.
He took the warm up. I had him in my DraftKings lineup, and they dropped that he was like min salary. They dropped that he wasn't in like right after it dropped. I think they put out a fake game sheet, and I think there should be some rules about when you need to reveal your lineup with your goalies, and none of this game time decision stuff. That was a major bummer for me. So especially the goalie stuff too, when they're like, you gotta wait until warm up to see. Like, come on, like, wager real dollars on this league here. So give us the info.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I would, we'd love to get a little bit more information, but as we heard from Scott Arniel and pretty much every other coach, everyone is on a need-to-know basis. But we do feel we need to know when we're making some of these picks and filling out those lineups. If you missed it last night, Connor and Liz went live at 7 o'clock. That live stream with Game 2 takeaways and more from the WST Sunday Live team, a little special edition, is up right now on the YouTube channel. We've also got tons of content on the social media. If you haven't already, go over to X, to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Sports Talk WPG. Make sure to give a follow there, and there'll be plenty more things coming up. And other than that, enjoy. Pretty nice outside. It should be a great night of hockey. We kind of have to wait till a little later on for the good stuff. I'm not as geeked for Montreal, Washington, although I'll certainly be tuning in. But, I mean, that doubleheader later on tonight, I think it's 8:37. They're dropping the puck in the Dallas-Colorado game. And then just after 9 p.m., the puck's going to drop in L.A. versus the Oilers. There are rumors, Remis, that the 12 Korean women that did the anthems on harmonica in LA have been invited back. Not sure whether they accepted the invite. A lot of people talking about that very unique anthem to kick off the playoffs in LA after game 1.
Yeah, my dad texted me. He's like, "Do you see this?" And look, they've got a busy schedule, so I'm all for alternative anthem editions. I like when Slash comes out and does it on guitar or something like that. So harmonica, sure, let's do that. So the anthem, I feel like a lot more attention on it for playoff time. And I noted in the post-game show with Connor, I thought when Stacey Natras held out the microphone and let the crowd sing along for the second half, that was awesome. I love when that happens in the playoffs, especially in the Canadian cities. So attention, Soul Bear here, great job game 1, Stacey in game 2. We'll see what happens in game. Well, if there is a next game,
yeah,
either this round or it could be even next round for the Winnipeg Jets.
The Jets have the opportunity to. I mean, it's kind of one of those things you would love to. I mean, the games have been so much fun. It would be really cool to see them win it at home. But not only would they get the extra rest if they were able to win these 2 games in St. Louis, but they've also be able to save Winnipeg Jet fans a lot of money, so they'd have more for round 2, and dare we hope round 3 and round 4 as the playoffs go on and things get a little bit more expensive. By the way, I'm just looking right now, just still at Coolbet. The line is up for tomorrow's game, and the Jets are favored on the road. The Jets are minus 118. Blues are even money. And just to put it into perspective, the Leafs and Sens go to Ottawa with the Leafs up 2-0. And the Sens it's basically a pick 'em, but the Sens are the slightest of favorites. So the Jets garnering more and more respect around the league and from odds makers that have pinned pretty big numbers on them throughout the year. Jets right now, plus 750 to win it all and plus 325 to win the West. All right, that is going to do it for us. We're going to get this pod up and get ready for a big night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And again, tomorrow, of course, a game day show, and 2 of the best from The Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford and Murat Atesh, will both join us. So do not miss it. Huge thanks again to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day, and all of you for making us a part of yours. Shout out to everyone listening to WST on the podcast. Tell a friend about where they can get it. And to everyone on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out if you haven't already. And have a great night. We will see you tomorrow, 1 p.m., for a Game 3 playoff game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk right here on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.